Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. So in the 5th chapter, we were on verse number 15. Yes, that's where we had stopped last time. Nadatte kasyachit papam na chaivam sukritam vibhuhu ajñānena-āvṛittiṁ jñānam tena muhyanti jantava. The omnipresent Lord does not accept the sin or virtue of anybody. Knowledge is enveloped by ignorance. Because of this, beings get deluded. So what is going on now is the teaching of Jnana Yoga, the highest teaching, the ultimate purpose, the ultimate point of Advaita Vedanta. It's good to understand Vedanta in this way, in 2 stages. First, starting where we are. We think of ourselves as this individual, this body-mind. If you ask, what are you? Our instinctive answer is this. And if you're asked, describe it, what do you mean by this? This body, and yes, life, and yes, mind and personality, my personal history, my awareness, certainly my awareness. So the I, usually for us, it refers to body, mind, plus the awareness there. So basically it refers to the gross body, the subtle body, the causal body, and the reflected consciousness. So technically, before we are enlightened, the I, when I say I, it straight away points to physical body, subtle body, causal body, and the consciousness reflected there, which is called the Chidabhas, the reflected consciousness. The original consciousness, the pure consciousness, the Atman, what Advaita wants to teach us is there, is right there. But we don't mean that when we say I, because we don't know it. We don't feel it that way. So that's where we start. So Vedanta starts there. You think of yourself as this person who is seeking enlightenment. Very good. Then you need to go through certain preparations for enlightenment. And those preparations are what has been described earlier as karma yoga. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, the conversion of all our activities into the worship of God, that is karma yoga, without pursuing selfish goals there. Then devotion to God. It could be ritualistic, it could be through hymns and songs. So devotion, bhakti yoga, and concentration and meditation on the forms of God, on the mantra, all of that we do. And our idea that I'm the body mind is not disturbed there. It's all right, hold on to that. But now try to become a spiritual seeker, a sadhaka, a spiritual practitioner. And all these practices are recommended. Then what happens is, through part of those practices are Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana, the systematic, literally means hearing, systematically studying Advaita Vedanta, the Upanishads, and all these texts, the Gita, and all the other, Rigdrishya, Viveka, and Aparokshanubhuti. As we systematically study it, our understanding of what I mean by I is questioned, is brought into question, is analyzed, and we are shown repeatedly in different ways in different texts that you cannot be this body, that you cannot be the stream of thoughts called the mind. You cannot be even the intellect or even the blankness which is beyond the intellect, the causal body. None of these, because these are all revealed to you, the consciousness. So you must be the consciousness which shines upon and reveals this body-mind system. So you are this background awareness, this pure consciousness, which transcends the body-mind and acts in and through it, shines in and through it, and enables the body-mind to act, to carry on its activities. So what happens is, in our study of Advaita Vedanta, there is, it's expected, there'll be a profound shift in the meaning of I. There will be a profound shift, it has to come. That is being taught and hammered again and again. What you take to be the I, body, mind, intellect, reflected consciousness, that is not the actual I. There is something which transcends all of these. It transcends the three bodies. So what are the three bodies now? Physical body, subtle body, and causal body. It transcends the five koshas, the five sheets, the food sheet, the vital sheet, the mental sheet, the intellect sheet, and the causal or the bliss sheet. The five sheets, it transcends that. What do I mean by transcends? By transcends, I mean it is none of these. It's not one of these bodies, not one of these sheets, and yet it is in and through all of these. It's right there. It's not something separate also, that here are the five sheets, here are the three bodies, and there is one thing called the Atman somewhere over there. No, it's right there. Just like gold is right there in the ornaments. And yet gold transcends the ornaments in the sense that gold is not limited to being a necklace or a bracelet or a ring or something. So you, the real self, the existence, consciousness, bliss, we discovered it. And this is a breakthrough. First, we understand it by our study, like we are trying to do now. Then we get clarity about it. We deal with all the doubts as they come up. That is the stage of mananam, or of reasoning and questioning and getting clarity. Every question is answered to our satisfaction. When we think deeply about it, we get clarity about it, we get conviction about it. Even that's not enough. Then there's an actual moment of a breakthrough. We see that, oh, it is so. We discover, then there's a profound shift in the reference of the I. The I was directly referring to this body, mind, intellect earlier. Now it does not refer to that. It refers to something beyond that, which is very clear to us now. So that is now revealed to us, that I am Brahman. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I am the nature of. Now it makes sense to me. It's not just something that I sing, that I am Shiva, I am of the nature of consciousness and bliss. It makes sense to me. It's clear now. So then I notice certain things, that if I am this consciousness and I'm not the body, though remember, the body, mind, they're not entirely separate. The two are related. Related in the sense that the body, mind, intellect, all of that, the five koshas, the three bodies, they all depend upon consciousness for illumination. They all depend upon the Atman for existence. The Atman gives them, in Sanskrit it says satta sphurti. Hindi also they say satta sphurti. Satta means existence, sphurti means illumination, revelation. So you lend existence to the body, mind, intellect, and you lend illumination to the body, mind, intellect. So this consciousness is not the body. Since it's not the body, disease is of the body, not yours. You realize that. Old age, aging is of the body, not yours. Death is of the body, not yours. Death will be there, but you will not die. And you realize it. It's not a slogan anymore, not a promise anymore. It becomes obvious. It's true. Then further, because it's not the mind, not the prana also, the vital sheath, hunger and thirst and illness and energy and all of that, that belongs to the pranamaya kosha, the vital sheath. Consciousness is not affected by those. It illumines, it reveals all of that. Mind, ups and downs of the mind, enthusiasm and boredom and depression and elation, all the ups and downs of the mind are not your ups and downs. That you realize, because you are not the mind also. This becomes clear. So this consciousness apart from body, mind, immediately you notice it solves all the problems of samsara, at least for you. It solves the problems of samsara, old age, disease, death, suffering. You realize none of that applies to you anymore. But that's not the end of it. It goes further. You begin to think, there are many such consciousnesses, immortal consciousnesses in all beings, and Vedanta reveals to you the consciousness in all of these beings is the same. I am shining through all of these bodies and minds. Here in this body and mind, I shine through and I call it Sarvapriyananda. But in all those bodies and minds, it's literally that one consciousness. And I am that consciousness, which is shining through all of them. Krishna says, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Know me alone to be the illumination, the knower of the field, the consciousness in all fields. So, so that consciousness is not only beyond body and mind, enabling the body and mind, but not affected by the ups and downs of the body and mind, but is also one in all beings. Not only that, consciousness is not dependent on the body mind for its existence. After the destruction of the body mind, consciousness continues to exist. After the destruction of the universe, at the end of the universe, consciousness continues to exist. Consciousness as the Atman, what I'm talking about is the Atman itself, not consciousness in terms of what we talk about in modern consciousness studies, thoughts, feelings, emotions, no. So that continues to exist. It is not limited by the existence of bodies and minds, not even limited by the existence of the universe. The screen, movie screen continues to exist even after you switch off all movies. It's perfectly unaffected by the existence, by the playing of the movie or switching off of the movie. Now, another thing you notice, the consciousness itself, the Atman, the real Atman, which is now the meaning of I, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, I am Shiva of the nature of consciousness and bliss. It does not do actions. All actions are performed because of it. Notice, body, mind, senses, intellect, ego, all of it depends on you, the Atman. And so that performs actions. The individual being, the sentient being, Jiva, performs all the actions depending on you, the real you, the Atman. The Atman itself does not perform any action. And therefore, so I'm coming to what was said in this verse. Therefore, the Atman, the real nature, what your real nature, it does not do good deeds, it does not do bad deeds, and it does not receive the results of good or bad deeds. This is the meaning of what has been said here. What does it say? Nādatte kasyachit papam na chaivam sukritam vibhuhu. This all pervading consciousness does not accept or is not affected by the bad deeds, the evil deeds of any sentient being, nor is it glorified or nor does it enjoy the results of the good deeds of any sentient being. Although all the good deeds and bad deeds are going on and they are being enabled because of the presence of this consciousness, but they are all at the level of an appearance, transactional reality, vyavaharika satyam. Paramarthika satyam, the absolute truth, is this existence, consciousness, bliss, this Shiva nature, which you are. Therefore, you can honestly say that I do not do these deeds, nor am I getting the results of those deeds. It's like you have a movie, and it would be ridiculous to, to say that if there's a villain in the movie performing, a villain in the movie being villainous, you need to arrest the screen and movie screen and put the screen in jail. No, it has nothing to do with the movie or the villain or jail. And because the hero of the movie has done meritorious deeds and does wonderful heroic deeds, you don't have to praise the movie screen. Look what a good movie screen it is. It's doing such good. No. But notice, the two are not entirely separate. Because of the presence of the movie screen, all kinds of villainous and heroic deeds and misdeeds are going on, and yet in a certain sense, not going on at all, because it's only the movie screen which is there. So it says that the movie screen does not accept the evil deeds or the punishment of the villain, the movie villain, and does not accept or enjoy the heroic deeds and the rewards of the movie hero. Similarly, you, the Atman, you enable all of it. We are not talking about a dissociation, alienation. Somebody else is doing good and bad deeds. I am not doing anything. That I am the Atman. I did not do anything. Why are you punishing me? Very good. We will not punish the Atman, but we will punish the body. If you are really honest, you would be fine with that. There's a story in mythology. This comes up in mythology, for example. There are so many such stories. Once the lord of the gods, Indra in the heaven, he found his throne being shaken, and sin has come to catch hold of him. What happened? I didn't do any sin. He said, no, but there's this poor Brahmin back on earth, and a cow wandered into his vegetable garden and was eating up the vegetables there. And the Brahmin, in fury, he took up a stick and hit the poor cow so hard that the cow died. And killing a cow is a great sin, And so when the sin of killing the cow comes to catch the Brahmin said, oh, I didn't do it. It's the hand which did it. And the Devata, the power behind the hand is Indra. So Indra is each of the Devatas, they have their offices, they have their powers, their certain stations. So in the power of operating the hands and action is Indra. So now the sin says, okay, so I'll go and catch Indra. So he goes, that doesn't work. As long as you're identified with body mind, the body mind will definitely get the results of all the work, of all karma. So at that level, karma operates. At the level of the movie, karma operates. Otherwise, it would be a most peculiar movie. If at anytime the cops come to arrest the villain says, I'm a screen, you can't arrest me. It's true, as a screen, you can't arrest the movie screen, but the villain can be arrested in the movie itself. There are two levels of reality. Now, this all sounds weird because we do not know that level of reality. We do not know ourselves as the Atman. And that's what Krishna says in the next line. He says, ajñānena-āvṛittiṁ jñānaṁ tena muhyanti jantava. Here, jnana means the Atman itself, the pure consciousness. That I am pure consciousness. It is hidden from me because of ignorance. This is the standard Advaita doctrine. Because of my ignorance, ajñāna, I don't know it. Tena muhyanti jantava. So jantu means animals. These animals, so we are animals. We are deluded. How are we deluded? We do not know ourselves as pure consciousness, ignorance. And then we think of ourselves as bodies and minds. And then what's the problem? The problem is bodies and minds are seriously limited. And so all the limitations and problems of the body-mind comes upon me. Hunger and thirst and disease and old age and death and ambition and greed and lust and anger, all of that, body-mind problems, they become my problems. And when I act under the influence of body-mind problems, I'm caught in the machinery of karma. Good and bad deeds lead to good and bad results. Actions have consequences. And so life after life, I'm being whirled around. Although I have really nothing to do with all of this. I am the reality underlying all of that. Now, for any ignorance, we know the standard Advaita doctrine here. For ignorance, the solution, the medicine is knowledge. What knowledge? Whatever you are ignorant about, you need knowledge about that. It won't help me to say that I'm ignorant about Sanskrit and go and learn and sit down in the physics department. Physics knowledge will not help me to remove my ignorance about Sanskrit. Similarly, all the knowledge of the sciences and the arts will not help me to remove ignorance about myself. So you need self-knowledge. Knowledge about the self, Atma-vidya, which is what Krishna has been teaching all along. That Atma-vidya, how do you get that? You get that by Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You come to Vedanta, hear and study, and then you reason and work it out for yourself, and then meditate upon it till it becomes a living reality. So this is what it is. Jantava, the animals, we are a unique type of animal. This body-mind, which we have got right now, especially the body, the human body, is a unique type of animal in which it is possible to attain enlightenment. And that's what Krishna speaks about. The next two verses are very, very powerful, wonderful verses. I will dwell upon these two for the rest of the class today. Number 16. Jñānena tu tad-ātmānas yeṣhāṁ nāśhitam ātmanaḥ teṣhām āditya-vaj jñānam prakāśhayati tat-param. But those whose ignorance has been destroyed by the knowledge of the self, their knowledge, like the sun, manifests that highest being. Beautiful verse, very powerful verse. It says, those, who are those? They are the ones who prepare themselves. We know the whole story by now. The fourfold qualifications, viveka, the discernment between the eternal and the non-eternal. Then vairagya, a dispassion for the non-eternal, a seeking of God or seeking of the eternal reality. And then discipline. What is the discipline? The sixfold discipline of the body-mind. Shama, which is calmness of the mind, inner quietude. Dhamma, control of the organs, sense organs and motor organs. And then titiksha, a spiritual fortitude, toughness to pursue, to see it through to the end, this spiritual quest. Then there is, I was just reading Swami Turiyanandaji, in one of the reminiscences, he's telling a monk that, one thing I look back upon my life, one quality I notice in myself is that whatever I've taken up, I've done it to the end. That I've seen it through to the end. Even small things. So whatever he would take up, he would see it through to the end. He would not do it in, like slowly, lazily, take it up and give it up. And this is something I've noticed in all the direct disciples. And in fact, all the great spiritual seekers. Focus and determination and seeing it through. So this is titiksha, a spiritual fortitude. And then uparati, a withdrawal from too many worldly engagements. Rati, enjoyment of senses in the world. Uparati, the reverse, pull back. Then samadhana, having pulled back, what do you do with the time and energy and the mental space you have cleared up? Focus. Samadhana means settling down, focus. Focus on what? Vedantic study and reflection and meditation. And then samadhana, shraddha. So there is a deep abiding faith that this is all leading to somewhere. There's something behind all of this. It is true. I don't get it right now, but I will. Have I got all 6? Shama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Uparati, Samadhana. Then I missed out one. Then there is a Shraddha. Shraddha, I mentioned Shraddha. Yeah, so yes, 6. And then there is mumukshutvam, intense desire to be free. So it's a tall order, but we all have it to some extent. It's not that we all have it to the best possible extent, but we all have it to some extent in order to, that we are spiritual seekers, and we have been doing this for, in many cases, in your case, for years and years. So we have all of these qualities to some extent. And with these qualities, the person engages in Vedanta. Having undergone the earlier practices. See, where do you get all these qualities? Where do you develop your fitness for spiritual, for illumination? All the karma yoga which was mentioned earlier. So we have led an ethical life, or we are leading an ethical life. We practice some form of religion. This is Vedanta is very broad here. From a Vedantic perspective, be religious. It really doesn't matter if you are Catholic or you are Muslim, or if you're a Vaishnava, you're a Shakta. That is so extraordinarily broad, because from a Vedantic perspective, it is all devotion to Saguna Brahman, God, Ishvara. Devotion to God in whatever form. Vedanta has no problem at all. None of this quarreling about that's wrong and this is right. No, it's all right as long as you do it. And so that prepares the mind. With such a prepared mind, you come to Vedanta. And you study the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras, the introductory texts. They all tell you the same thing in various different ways. They're all telling you basically the same thing. Tat-tvamasi, that thou art. You might ask, if that's simple, why do I need to listen to it so many times? I know it by heart. Yes, but as we have been seeing in the Vedanta Sar class, it's not all that easy. I mean, when you go deeply, we don't really understand it. It's no use saying it like a slogan. If everybody can say E is equal to MC square, but how many of us know the mathematical derivation that goes behind it, those who really understand it? I remember reading about this scientist, Russian mathematician, who says that there's this whole trend of popularization of science these days. Yes, Stephen Hawking and others. It started in the 1940s, 50s. People writing popular books on physics and mathematics, especially physics, which is good. People understand the cutting edge work in science, but it's also a little misleading because people think they've understood. So this Russian mathematician says he was in a plane, and next to him was sitting an American businessman who was reading Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time. And this Russian mathematician said to him, "So do you understand this?" I'm putting on the accent. It was not there in the article. Do you understand this? And the American businessman said, yes, of course, it's wonderful. What's there not to understand? And this mathematician said, well, there are certain parts which are not very clear to me. And he says the businessman pulled out a napkin and took out a pen and said, look, I'll explain it to you. And he drew some diagrams and tried to explain it to him. And said, the mathematician said that I didn't have the heart to tell him that I collaborated with Stephen Hawking on some of these papers. So there are different levels of understanding. So it takes all these texts. Drigdrishya viveka. You get a better understanding when you read Aparokshanubhuti. You get an even better understanding of the whole framework when you read Vedanta Sara. But then when you come to the actual Upanishads, you come to the real thing. So you get an even deeper understanding. When you read the dialectical texts where there are attacks from many different sides on this teaching, and then they call it a sthuna nikandana nyaya, a pole. When you are driving it into the ground, what you do is you sometimes take it out, shake it a little bit, and drive it in even further. This shaking it a little bit is when you understand something and then you attack it from every possible angle. When you get the answers to those questions, those objections, your understanding has become even deeper and more clearer. You now know, okay, so this is what it means. This is what Maya means. This is what falsity of the world means. Yes. Having done that, you get clarity, you get conviction, then you settle down with that knowledge, the clarity and conviction which you have got, you settle down with it. That is nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation, which he'll talk about a little later. And then there is a breakthrough. It could happen even before nididhyasana, there is a breakthrough. What I said earlier, the reference of the I shifts completely. I am not the body and mind. I am this everlasting, ever-shining witness consciousness. This one consciousness in all beings. So this becomes clear to you. This breakthrough happens. This is what he uses, a very beautiful imagery. Āditya-vaj jñānam. Like the sun rising, what was indistinct, what was covered in darkness, what was seen wrongly, suddenly all darkness is dispelled. The sun rises and everything is revealed clearly. One of the commentators says, just as you see a pot in the blazing clear daylight by the light of the sun, exactly like that. Not that Brahman is revealed like a pot. That's not the intent. What is the intent here is clarity. It's clear. Like that, you get this knowledge. What knowledge? Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Not only Brahman exists, but I am that Brahman. This is the nature of that breakthrough. He says it's like the sun rising. There's a distinction between darkness in the night. There's confusion, lots of things you don't see, many things you see by mistake, many things you imagine. That's our day-to-day life, like dream walking through life. This is like waking up. This is like the night being dispelled, darkness being dispelled, and the sun rising. What is clearly mentioned in all the Vedantic texts, Satchidananda Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss. I am that. This becomes clear. So he says here, jñānena tu tad-ātmānas yeṣhāṁ nāśhitam ātmanaḥ. Jñānena, by knowledge. What knowledge? I am Brahman. Where did it come from? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Of what? Of Vedantic texts. By whom? Yeṣhāṁ means those. Who are those? Not everybody. Those who are prepared. What is the preparation? We know a wealth of information has been provided. It's a lifelong effort that we are going through. Teṣhām āditya-vaj jñānam. For them, aditya means sun. Knowledge, like the sun, prakāśhayati tat-param, reveals that highest reality. As what? I am that. It reveals that. Now what happens next? Next verse is very important. Now you need to stay with it. You have got this breakthrough. I'm saying this because there are many senior students of Vedanta here. We all get a feeling that I sort of get it, what they're talking about. Now what do I do? Now this is what you do. This is coming now. You need to stay with it. You need to put some effort into it. You need to immerse yourself, like marinate in that knowledge. Get that clarity, settle down in that clarity and stay with it. How you will do that, that's going to be talked about next. So the verse which we are going to go into now, number 17, has, I can say, two interpretations. One is the interpretation which is a general interpretation, which I'll give you later. But one is the advanced interpretation. And I'll tell you also where I get these interpretations from. So I'll tell you the advanced interpretation first. The advanced is that I am clear. I am Brahman now. If you're not clear, go back to the earlier stage. The earlier stage is mananam. What is your doubt? Where are you getting stuck? Or even earlier stage. I don't even know what the texts are telling me. There are all these books. All right, then study, listen, repeat the classes. Once that is cleared, or at least you have an intuition that I begin to get what you're talking about, now what you do, that is the advanced practice. That advanced practice is going to be mentioned here. Let me read it and then I'll explain. 17th verse. Tad-buddhayas tad-ātmānas tan-niṣhṭhās tat-parāyaṇāḥ gachchhantyapunar-āvṛittiṁ jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣhāḥ. Those who are decided on that, those whose mind is set in that, who are devoted to that, and whose last resort is that, attain to non-return with their sins winnowed off by knowledge. Okay, very powerful verse. What is it talking about? Advanced interpretation. If you already have that breakthrough, if you already have clarity, even, let's not use the language of breakthrough, because then many people will think, I don't have breakthrough, but I understand what Vedanta is saying. All right, if you really think you understand what Vedanta is saying, then this is for you. What remains for you now? What remains for you is called Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. You are a jnani. You know. You are convinced you have clarity. I'm not even saying if you have a breakthrough or not. You're convinced you have clarity. Now what you need to do is Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. Jivan Mukti is that I pass my days. My days means as long as this body lasts because of past karma, prarabdha karma, it will last for some time. I know I am not this body. But then the body is there and I am seeing the world through this body. I'm experiencing the thoughts and feelings which were there in this body earlier. All of that is still going on. The movie is still playing. How do I keep my mind on the screen while watching the movie? How do I live as Brahman yet through this body and mind? That's Jivan Mukti. And that's the highest state possible. The whole purpose of Vedanta in one sense is that attainment of this Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti Sukha Prapti. Manushya Janma Hetave. Turyanandaji used to say that this solved his question. What is the point of all of this creation of all the universe and life and spirituality? He says Jivan Mukti is worth it to be Brahman, but not just Brahman, but it's worth it to be a Jivan Mukta in the midst of samsara, in the midst of this world, in the midst of manifestation. Therefore, all of manifestation becomes worth it if you are a Jivan Mukta. And it's worth trying to get that. And once you're a Jivan Mukta, you will also, when the body drops off finally, at the exhaustion of prarabdha karma, the past karma is gone. There is no future karma for you because it's all been destroyed by illumination, by realization. Therefore, you will never come back again in a limited form as a body mind, as a jiva. That is called Videha Mukti or Kaivalya Mukti. That is freedom, bodiless freedom. So this is this is what remains for you now. How do you do that? In 4 stages. Remember, 4 stages. These 4 stages are the advanced interpretation just for the person I'm speaking about. And just one thing here, don't take it otherwise. This applies very well to a monk. So the whole idea, why do you become a monk, is in preparation for enlightenment. It's the monastic lifestyle is suitable for sadhana. That's why one becomes a monk. And remember all this discussion, we had this earlier, why it's actually more reasonable, why it's safer to remain as a householder and yet practice spiritual disciplines. But one must admit that if you are ready for it, then the monastic lifestyle has many advantages for a spiritual seeker. And after you make the breakthrough, after you make the breakthrough, after you have this clarity, conviction about Vedanta, one can become a monk after that also. That is called Vidvat Sannyasa. So there is Vividisha Sannyasa and Vidvat Sannyasa. Vividisha Sannyasa is what we became. We became monks because we wanted to become enlightened. Vividisha means desire for enlightenment, desire for realization, desire for knowledge. Vividisha. And that's why we are monks. Not that we are enlightened. We are not Jivan-muktas. We are trying to become enlightened. And that's why I have taken a specialized lifestyle. So that's one category. And that's the majority of monks. But it's also possible, and Vidyaranya Swami discusses it in his book, Jivan Mukti Viveka. It's also eminently possible that you already are a master of Vedanta. You already have clarity. You already are convinced about it. You say, I'm sold. I believe all of it. I see it all. And I actually feel that it's true. Then would you, if you're still not a monk, would you become a monk? Yes, you could. And that is advantageous at this stage to practice these 4 steps. It is easier to for a monk to do it. And that kind of a monk is called a Vidvat Sannyasa, the monastic life of the knower of Brahman, who is a Jnani. Why would that person become a monk? What special advantage accrues to a person who already feels that I am Brahman? Is it's easier to practice these 4 stages, these 4 practices. What are the 4 practices? Tad-buddhaya first. Buddhi means knowledge. The knowledge, sarvatra brahma darshana, to see Brahman everywhere, in every action, in every person. You already know it, and I'll explain how this person sees it. Vividly. Brahmarpanam brahmahavi, brahmagno brahmanahutam. In every action, the persons you are with, the instruments of action, the car you're using, the computer you're using, the spoon with which you are eating, those are the instruments of action. The people who are involved in that action, the person you are serving the food, the person you are driving in the car, person you are communicating with in a class or writing a report, all of those persons also, all are Brahman. How so? How so? You realize that this existence consciousness in all these beings, is there not existence? Is there not this sense of presence, isness? It's there, obviously, shining forth all the time. Sometimes people ask, when we keep using the English word consciousness, a kind of false idea develops in the mind. Oh, so this consciousness which I'm feeling, that's Brahman. Not that. That's just the reflected consciousness. And therefore, there are questions which follow from this wrong conception. Question is, so if consciousness is everywhere, the next question will be, in that case, is there consciousness in a stone? Is there consciousness in a spoon? You wouldn't even ask that question if you realize that consciousness and existence are the same thing. So does a stone not exist? Why are you even asking? Because we are thinking of consciousness as thinking and memory and thought and feeling and emotion. So does a stone have that? Does a spoon have that? You don't even have to think. You are thinking about the mind. When you're thinking about objects out there in the world, just notice existence. Just notice that they are present. There is an isness. Spoon is, computer is, rock is. What is that isness? If you've gone through Vedantic analysis, I don't have to go through all of that. You've gone through it, you notice it as bare presence. That isness, which you feel right now. You feel it everywhere. It's an ocean of existence. It's not that waves have water. I see thousands of waves in the ocean. Each one has a certain amount of water. That's not the right way of looking at an ocean. It is a mass of water which appears as waves of various sizes. Similarly, when we look at the universe around us right now, a book exists, book is, table is, man is, woman is. No, that's not the right way of looking at it. Book has some existence, man has some existence, woman has some existence. Not at all. In fact, modern philosophy did from Bertrand Russell's time. He did something called the theory of descriptions, which completely disproves this. It's illogical to talk about things having existence. 1200 years before Bertrand Russell, Shankaracharya, writing his commentary on the 16th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, nasato vidyate bhava, he uses almost exactly the same logic. Existence is not adjectival. Existence is not a property. Existence is the reality upon which you impose properties. It's not like waves have water. It's water which comes up as waves. It is not that things have existence. It is existence which appears as things. Language deludes us. We say chair exists. Vedanta would have you say existence chairs. It's an ocean of existence. Everything that you see here is a wave in that ocean of existence. It's just a name and a form and a function. But the substance, the reality in everywhere is existence. You feel that isness everywhere. Like the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita we read, Brahmarpanam, the instrument is Brahman, the offering is Brahman, the fire is Brahman. So existence is appearing as this instrument. Existence is appearing as the fire. Existence is appearing as the action. Existence is appearing as the person doing the action. And notice, I'm not making a theoretical argument here. You are at the stage, we are talking about the advanced practitioner. You're at the stage for whom you would say, yes, of course. It's the most obvious thing. Why are you dwelling on this? It's a fact. Dwell on this. This is called tad-buddhaya, sarvatra brahma darshana. I will explain where I got all this from later on, but this is the advanced practice. Sarvatra brahma darshana. This is some of the practice of monks in Shankara's orders in the advanced stages of nididhyasana. So everything that you experience, whatever you see, whomever you see, whatever you smell and taste and touch, all of that, whatever you think about, notice immediately the attention goes not to the person, not to the activity, not to the thing, but to the existence there. And it's always available. The existence in every being is available to you, just like clay is available in every clay pot that you see. It blazes forth. Shankaracharya says it choicelessly blazes forth in Aparokshanubhuti. He says the clay in the pot choicelessly blazes forth. You cannot avoid seeing it. You just have to note that its existence everywhere. Swami Vivekananda says, first it is that existence, that sat, and then we color it with good and bad. Even before good and bad, even before person I like and person I dislike, it is isness. And the isness is pure. The isness is being itself. So this is called tad-buddhaya. When? All the time. Where? Everywhere. With whom? With everybody. With what? With everything. Have this sense of presence, isness. This is the first stage. Second, this is not enough. He says next, tad-ātmānas. It is not just that there is existence everywhere. I am that. Aham brahmasmi. That existence everywhere is I. It's not everywhere. Everywhere is in me. It's not every when. Every when is in me. It's not every object or person. All those objects and persons are in existence, which is me, which is I. It's an important step to own up that this universal being everywhere, in every moment of my existence, is this existence and this presence is I. I am presence. I am existence. I am. Now, why do we call it consciousness? The moment you say I, you notice something else. It's no longer just existence. The I is always lit up. The existence which you are is not an existence which you are aware of. That existence is awareness also. It is not only sat, it is chit, consciousness. It is being awareness. This is called satyam jnanam. So I am that satyam jnanam, existence awareness. And I've already said it's everywhere, it's all the time, it's all beings. So that existence awareness which I am is unlimited. There's no barrier to it. Which wave in the ocean sets a barrier to water? Let me repeat that. If you see the waves in the ocean, where is the demarcation between wave and wave as far as water is concerned? There cannot be. It's seamlessly one entity called water. Just looks like different waves. It is seamlessly one entity, existence, awareness, which is you. That seamlessly one entity is called anantam, unlimited. So satyam jnanam anantam brahma in Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmananda Valli. Infinite existence consciousness is Brahman. Yes, that tad Brahma eva aham, that Brahman I am. He says tad-ātmanaḥ. I am that. So that's the second thing you must dwell upon. I am that. I am Brahman. Then the problem will be, so again, this description is all of a traditional monk sitting in the mountain cave or hut and meditate. I have seen such people who meditate constantly. It is nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation. There is no more, like studying, trying to understand, getting information and arguing. All that is done long ago. Now what happens is, for such a person, a lifestyle, activities can still disturb you. Activities can still disturb you. At our stage of just basic understanding and beginning to get it, we keep on complaining. Swami, I get it in the class. The moment I go outside the class, I go out into the world, interact with people, it's all gone. Here, the commentators say that for such a monk who has the breakthrough, who has the clarity, and who is meditating, activities will disturb this meditation. What are the activities? Going out for begging for food and taking a bath in the Ganga, those are the activities. And they will disturb this settledness in the being awareness. So what should one do? As far as possible, give up all other activities and stay with this alone. As much as possible. Give up all of that. That's why I'm saying this was meant for Vidvat Sannyasi, a monk who is going to do this. So I was reading about, the classic examples are the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, the Swami Turiyanandaji. What a life he led after he came back to from the United States and stayed here, different places in the Himalayas and other places. Extraordinarily austere life. What was he doing? I mean, there are descriptions. He used to say about his days in doing tapasya near Kankhal in Uttarkashi and other places. He say, a monk is 23 hours a Raja and 1 hour a fakir. For 23 hours, you're a king, and 1 hour, you're a beggar. 23 hours a king means 23 hours you can remain settled as Brahman. 1 hour, you have to go out and beg for your food. Then you're a beggar. But other 23 hours, you are. And literally, he meant 23 hours. One monk writes in his reminiscences of Turiyanandaji that I asked him to tell us something about his experiences, his practices. So he said at one time, I had to spend all my time. He said, job, dhan, part, dhan, job. Study of the Upanishads and the Gita. And then repetition. It could be the Ishta mantra. It could be simply Aham Brahmasmi. Staying with it and being absorbed in samadhi. When samadhi comes in, it lightens, come back to the repetition of the mantra. If that you don't feel like doing that, then go back to the study of the Upanishads and the other texts and repeat in a cycle. And then he says that I thought, why sleep? Why sleep? I'm getting full rest. I don't have anything to do, and I'm getting full rest in meditation. So if meditation is correct, is going on well, they say that it is as good as deep sleep. So, but that has to be meditation of the level of samadhi. So he said, I started reducing sleep till I was sleeping for 1 to 1.5 hours a day. And the rest of the day, 22 hours, like 23 hours, I was studying, meditating, or repeating the mantra, and that's it. And then he said, I pushed further, and he said, I felt no tiredness at all. I pushed further, and then one day I had no sleep at all. And then this went on for the second day, and the third day, and the fourth day, and the fifth day. At the end of the week, I had no sleep for a week. And then he said, I got scared. He said, I remembered that Swami Vivekananda would not get sleep, and his health suffered because of that. I thought maybe it's good to practice some sleep. Then I started practicing sleep. The first night, after a week of not sleeping, just meditating all night long, first night when I practiced sleep, it would not come. Then after a couple of days of practice, half an hour of sleep came. And then after that, like 2-3 hours of sleep every night he would get. So this is the kind of life he was leading. extremely austere, completely dependent on Brahman and nothing else. When he's off on one of his journeys to do tapasya, meditation, from our ashram, the hospital in Kankhal in Haridwar, the description of the head monk of that ashram. See, this is an old Swami, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, is valuable. But he says, no, I'll go off alone and stay on the bank of the river and meditate. So the head Swami says, Swami, at least take something with you. And finally, he begged, take this coat at least. It will protect you against the cold. And because he begged in with such humility, Swami Turiyananda agreed. So it was a heavy overcoat. So he put that on and he started walking. And when he put his hand in there, he found a little bundle of money. So that the head Swami had put in a little bundle of money into the pocket. So that if the Swami needs something, he can buy things. Swami Turiyananda walked all the way back to the ashram again. He had already walked 5 or 6 miles. He walked all the way back to the ashram again. Not only returned that money, returned that coat also. He wouldn't accept it anymore and went on his way. At one time, there's a description of how he had no clothes left. All the clothes on his body rotted away and fell away. He had only a loincloth left, that too. And then he picked up rags from a dead body. Where the cremation, the body had been burnt and the clothes were thrown near the cremation ground. He picked that up. And another monk who was with him, he said, this is not auspicious, Swami, you shouldn't use this. The Swami said, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll wash it in Ganges water and then I can put it on. This kind of extreme dependence on God and one-pointed. So what was he focusing on? Why all this? This focus was entirely on Brahman. This is called tan-niṣhṭhās. This is the third one, tan-niṣhṭhās. Because all the activities can distract you, you give up everything else, just literally everything else, and clear the board and depend only on God and stay with God. It's real for you. Why will you not stay with it? Stay with that alone. And that you find in lives of many great jnanis, whether it's Ramana Maharshi or many others. They find at least there's a period where they are absolutely unconcerned with the world. And sometimes, like Ramana Maharshi's life, you see like month after month in samadhi, not aware of the external world, not even bothered whether the body will die. Sri Ramakrishna also, you see, 6 months after Todapuri left, somebody else had to come and feed him, push some food into his mouth. So this is called tan-niṣhṭhās. Tan-niṣhṭhās means dedicated to that, focused in that, stabilized in that, to the exclusion of everything else. All right. Now one more. Tat-parāyaṇāḥ, the fourth one. What happens is there are certain, as long as the physical body is there, there are certain activities you cannot give up. Even if you are a monk in the Himalayas, you will have to go for food, and you go once in a while to take a bath in the Ganga. Maybe you have to go and give classes on Vedanta to the students or whatnot. So there are a few activities which you do not give up. Now, to make sure that those activities do not distract you from your settledness in Brahman, you have to connect all those activities to Brahman. Tat-parāyaṇāḥ means param ayanam, the final goal, the final reality of every movement of the mind is Brahman. Any activity that you do, there will be a movement in the mind. It's called chitta-vritti. I go and ask for food. Mind is active. So the mind must be focused. You must see Brahman there in that activity. Whether it is going out and begging for food or taking a bath or teaching others, that it is Brahman alone, you notice it inside, outside, everywhere. That noticing that the ultimate reality in every activity is Brahman, that the ultimate goal of every vritti is Brahman. Param ayanam means the ultimate goal. So all activities which are indispensable, which have to be performed, and especially if you are a busy monk, or if you're not even a monk, you are in the householder, you are in the world, you're engaged with many things like Krishna is or Arjuna is. How can they do this? So they have to convert every activity into Brahman. Every vritti must be connected to Brahman. They must see Brahman in every vritti. That is called tat-parāyaṇāḥ. There must be nothing unconnected, nothing which brings you back to this body-mind identification. remaining immersed in this way. 4 stages or 4 practices. Remember, tad-buddhi, seeing Brahman everywhere, like Brahmarpanam Brahmavi. Seeing means existence, existence, existence. Then next, tad-ātmānam. I am that Brahman. It's not that I am there and there is a Brahman which I know. No, I am that Brahman. Then it becomes existence consciousness, lit up by awareness all the time. I am that Brahman. Then take exclusive care to stay with it and not get involved in other things. Tan-niṣhṭhā, as much as possible. You need not be like Swami Turiyananda, not to that extent, but to some extent. You must put forth some effort to be exclusively devoted to that, spend some time for that every day. It could be study, it could be meditation, it could be whatever you do, but it must be exclusively I am Brahman, that cultivating that. And then finally, even when you are active in anything else other than Vedantic nididhyasana, it must connect back, it must reveal Brahman in those activities. Tat-parāyaṇāḥ. So this is the advanced practice. What happens by all of this? The next line we'll talk about, but let me tell you about the general interpretation of this. By the way, general interpretation, advanced interpretation, where did I get all of this? General interpretation is given by Madhusudan Saraswati. Madhusudan Saraswati, he gives a general interpretation, which I will give you now. Advanced interpretation was by Swami Shankarananda, who was of the time of Vidyaranya Swami, a little just before Vidyaranya Swami, who wrote a wonderful commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, this book. Shankarananda Vyakhya. So there he gives this advanced practice. This it's available now in Sanskrit. I think there's also a Hindi translation. So that was Shankarananda's commentary, which is an advanced commentary or an advanced practice. What is the general commentary on this? A much more relaxed approach to it. So he says, Madhusudan Saraswati says, start with the end, tat-parāyaṇāḥ. Tat-parāyaṇāḥ means make up your mind that God realization is my goal. My goal is God realization. Whatever I'm doing in life, it is God realization. I have dispassion for the world. My aim in life is to realize God. A husband, wife, children, job, all of that is there, but my goal is God realization. That is tat-parāyaṇāḥ, having God realization as my ultimate goal. Step 1. Step 2, one step back. What was there just before that? Tan-niṣhṭhās. Now become dedicated to Vedanta. Engage in Shravana and Manana. In the study of Vedanta, attend all the classes, take notes, think about it, do all the associated practices like devotional practices, like karma yoga, like meditation, all of that you do. That is called tan-niṣhṭhā, discipline. Stay with it. Niṣhṭhā means dedication to it. Not only is it my goal, I'm actually doing something about it. There's a second stage. Third stage, tad-ātmānam. You realize that in nididhyasana. The third stage is of nididhyasana. Shravana manana, and then comes nididhyasana. That I am Brahman, stay with that idea. Once it's clear in the second stage that I am Brahman, you stay with that in Vedantic nididhyasana, tad-ātmānam. And then finally the first one which was mentioned, tad-buddhayas. Here buddhi means realization or jñāna. You will have the breakthrough, I am Brahman. This will come. Now 4 stages, starting from the back of the verse. Tat-parāyaṇāḥ, my goal is God realization. I am a sadhaka. Tad-niṣhṭhā, I am up and doing. I'm doing karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga. I'm studying Vedanta. All of that is going on. Whether you are a monk or you are a householder does not matter. You are a sadhaka now. Actually up and doing. Tan-niṣhṭhā. That's your project in life now. Third, now you have got Vedantic clarity about what is Brahman, how am I Brahman. Stay with it in Vedantic meditation. Aparoksha Anubhuti. Shankaracharya gives 15 methods. Drigdrishya Viveka. 6 methods are there. In Vivek Chudamani, so many methods of meditation are given, Vedantic meditation. So stay with it. You get tad-ātmānam, aham brahmasmi. That knowledge becomes clear and steady. Beyond all doubts, beyond all contrary tendencies. There's a technical point here. Asambhavana viparita bhavana. It's overcome. That's the third stage. And the final, tad-buddhaya, aham brahmasmi knowledge shines forth. The advanced interpretation starts from that final. Once the aham brahmasmi knowledge shines forth, what do you do? So then those four are interpreted in a sense of an advanced practice. What does Shankaracharya say about it, advanced or general? If you look at Shankara, it's deliberately vague. You could interpret it in both ways. I think that's how the two different interpretations have come. Doesn't matter, advanced interpretation or general interpretation, what will be the result? The result will be common for all of them. Gachchhantyapunar-āvṛittiṁ jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣhāḥ. Jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣhāḥ, cleansed of all impurity. Kalmaṣha, impurity. By knowledge. What knowledge? I am Brahman. That cleanses you of all. Like the movie screen is cleansed of all the good and bad of the movie. It's not, the movie screen is neither tragic, nor is it funny, nor is it a disaster movie, nor is it comedy, nothing. It is cleansed. The moment you realize, you don't even have to switch up the movie. Notice, this is the beauty of Advaita Vedanta. In yoga, you have to switch up the movie. In bhakti, you have to play a devotional movie. In Advaita Vedanta, whatever movie plays, your attention is on the screen, which is free, ever free of the movie, even when the movie is playing. So you, it is cleansed of all the effects of karma, all impurities. What are the impurities? All our past vasanas, that is gone. Then all distractions of the mind, that is gone. And then ignorance about our real self, that is gone. And even there also there might be doubts, which is asambhavana, or contrary tendencies, viparita bhavana. Those are also impurities. So all impurities are removed. Even the subtlest ones and all the gross ones. They're all removed when knowledge shines forth. Of course, a good deal of the groundwork has been done by the other yogas. So jñāna-nirdhūta-kalmaṣhāḥ, then what happens? You are jivan mukta now. And at the death of the body, gachchhantyapunar-āvṛittiṁ, you do not come back in a limited form again in this world. You are what is called kaivalya mukti or videha mukti. You remain as Brahman. You were Brahman, you remain as Brahman. You go beyond any kind of worldly existence anymore. So that is the whole goal of Advaita Vedanta. The Holy Mother, in a very simple way, she was asked once. She had given initiation to a disciple. And the disciple said, Mother, if I do not do the sadhana, spiritual practices, what will happen to me if I do not repeat the mantra? She said, my son, you have taken initiation from me. And so never fear, at the point of death, you will be released. She said, Sri Ramakrishna, Thakur will come for you and release you. That is guaranteed. It's like a guarantee. But then she added, if you want joy and bliss in this life, then you will have to practice. Now, this is a very simple way of talking about videha mukti and jivan mukti. More philosophically, Vidyaranya says, if you have clarity about Vedanta and you make the breakthrough without all these practices also, at the point of death, you will attain videha mukti. He says it's guaranteed. Such a person will never come back again once you make the breakthrough. But, he says, this is not equal to jivan mukti. For jivan mukti, he uses other terms. He says it's called vasanakshaya and manonasha. Those things have to be done. According to him, three things are necessary for jivan mukti. Tattva-jnana, vasanakshaya, manonasha. Tattva-jnana is what is called knowledge here, the breakthrough. Vasanakshaya is what is called purity of mind here. And manonasha is what is called samadhi or concentration of mind, focus. That vasanakshaya and concentration of mind, those are the two things which these advanced practices, they give you. Once you have the breakthrough, this is Vedantic nididhyasana, which depend on and strengthen the purity of the mind and the focus of the mind. Mind is kept pure of everything except Brahman and focused on nothing but Brahman, your real nature. You might say, why wouldn't it be once you realize you're Brahman and Brahman is the only thing that there is? But remember, mind and body are part of Prakriti. Mind and body are products of Maya. They have their own tendencies. They have their own inertia. You realize you're Brahman, fine. But the mind and body will tend to go on the way they have been conditioned earlier. So if the conditioning has not been done properly, you have not finished the course of the fourfold qualifications, then the mind and body will not reflect your realization fully. To reflect the realization fully and to get the full benefit, the joy of Jivan Mukti, the great bliss of being enlightened in this life itself, these practices are necessary. This is what Swami Vivekananda calls assimilation of the knowledge. He says, till it tingles, I am he. He says, till it tingles, you stay with it. He says, till it tingles with every drop of your blood. That's a very powerful way he put it. It must become a very natural thing. But the way people think, I am the body, it must go there, that I am Brahman. That must be equally natural and effortless. Then you are Jivan Mukta. Good. So, let me see. Alpana is asking, Swami, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, is the pure consciousness being revealed or is still reflected consciousness experience in the quietened mind? Pure consciousness is always revealed and does not take Nirvikalpa Samadhi to reveal it. It takes knowledge. See, notice what was said. Ajñānena-āvṛittiṁ jñānam. That you are pure consciousness, your existence consciousness place is obscured by ignorance. Ignorance is removed by knowledge, not by Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a very powerful aid to it. There's no doubt about it. Notice, Sri Ramakrishna never said that you have to attain Nirvikalpa Samadhi. We all often think that. Sri Ramakrishna only said, the maximum thing he said, very interesting. You see the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, what is most attractive to people is he's going to Samadhi again and again. But when he teaches either Jnana or Bhakti. He says the goal of human life is to attain Jnana, knowledge. Or he says the goal of human life is to attain Bhakti. By the way, all these verses I'm saying now, these are all can be interpreted in a dualistic way, and they have been. If you take a devotional paradigm, Advaita Vedanta paradigm, for example, a dualistic or Vishishta Advaita paradigm, it can be interpreted in terms of Bhakti also, no problem. But I'm giving you the Advaitic interpretation. Nowhere does Sri Ramakrishna say that you have to practice Samadhi. He only, at most in one place he says, Samadhi na hole thik thik hoy na. Unless you become absorbed in it in Samadhi, it's not done properly. It's not done right. And that Vidyarni also agrees. And that's what you see in these 4 practices. Basically, what is he recommending? That you become absorbed. You get Samadhi through Vedantic Nididhyasana. Stay with that for a long time. And that you also, one way of looking at it is look at the lives of the great teachers of Vedanta. That's the best explanation. All these things are there. One might get confused. After reading all of this, you check with the lives of the great masters whom you may have seen or you have read about. You will notice all of them, they spend long periods in deep contemplation. Girish, does pure consciousness as Atman overlap with the Western concept of phenomenal consciousness? What it feels like to experience something, or completely are the two disjoint? You can explain now. What is this phenomenal consciousness? It is the reflection of pure consciousness in the mind. When we say I, remember I mentioned it a number of times at the beginning. When we say I, normally, usually, we mean this body and the mind and the awareness of consciousness in this body-mind. In Vedantic terms, Sthula, Shukshma, Karana, Sharira, Chidabhasa Saha, with Chidabhasa, with the reflected consciousness. What you mean by phenomenal consciousness, what you mean by what it feels like, what we think, what we experience right now. Thoughts, feelings, memories, all of it feels conscious. Sense experiences, it all feels conscious. What is that consciousness? It is reflected consciousness. Is it not pure consciousness? It's not apart from pure consciousness. Moonlight. What is moonlight's relationship with sunlight? Ultimately, they're the same thing. There's no moonlight without sunlight. And yet, it makes sense to talk about moonlight. It has a specific function and a special way it comes about. But it's nothing other than sunlight. Reflected consciousness is nothing other than pure consciousness. But it's already processed through a mind and senses. Brick says, does realization of the Atman obliterate a sense of personal self? No. I have a friend who says that their realization, which I believe is genuine, profound, has done that. But what he obviously experiences, pleasure and pain, normal emotions, etc. Who or what is the experience in such a case? That's why the Vedantic texts are very useful. Panchadashi answers this directly. Once you have realization, then the word I, the term I, will have two meanings for you. He says the term I has three meanings. One for all of us, and two for the enlightened being. The one for all of us means this, that's all it means, this body mind, this person. That's what is meant by I for just about all of us, except the few enlightened ones among us. But for the enlightened person, the I means two things. One, primary sense. Two, secondary sense. Primary sense, it means Brahman, the Atman. I am awareness, I am presence. It's absolutely clear, indubitable for them. But does it obliterate the secondary sense of the I? No, it says there's another sense of the I, which is body mind. But it is a secondary sense. So it's not like us. When we say we are body mind, that's all we mean. That's our reality. It's not their reality. That's why your friend, if her realization is genuine, then she is honest when she says that I do not have a sense of being a person. There is an appearance of a person. If you ask her, that's what she'll agree to that. There's an appearance of a person. I'm clearly not it. And that appearance of a person enables her to interact with all of us. Vidyaranya Swami says this, that the other sense of the I, it is for interaction with the world. So Vedanta says, you don't have to go overboard with this, with all this Advaita Vedanta, like when you interact with people, if you're practicing Vedantic Nididhyasana, you don't have to say, I, the absolute consciousness reflected, bouncing off the appearance of the causal body, subtle body, and gross body. I am now appearing as Mr. So-and-so to you and talking with you. No, you just say, I'm talking with you. That's perfectly all right. Sri Ramakrishna would sometimes switch back and forth. He would say sometimes this. He would refer to his body mind as an object, this thing. Sometimes he would say, I'm going to Calcutta, I'm going to drink water. So what's going to drink water? Is Brahman going to drink water? No, this body mind. But there's a difference between the way we use I and the enlightened person referring to the body mind. The enlightened person uses I in quite a different sense from us. It's more like play acting for them. And also, if they follow these advanced practices, these what was mentioned just now, actually a sense of body mind tends to get erased for such persons. They may not be in samadhi. Swami Bhuteshanji says that we have seen this in the case of very advanced spiritual seekers. So who is saying? Swami Bhuteshanji is the president of the Ramakrishna order. He says we have seen it in the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna and other advanced spiritual seekers. And he mentions clearly, I am not talking about samadhi. They're fully aware of the world and the body, and yet they seem to be not aware. They're aware. It is a unique thing. He says, unless you see it, you will not understand. There is this very holy atmosphere, a vibration around them. And they seem to be absorbed in something unknown, unseen to you. It's not that they are not aware of you. They are aware of you. They're aware of their own body. They're aware of a distinction of a personality, of individuality. But all of that, it's like they're making an effort to hold on to it. It's like it is being erased. They're trying to get it back and hold on to it in order to interact with us. Their absorption in Brahman is so deep, even when they're active with body mind, interacting with the world, it's still an effort for them. They become so immersed in the sense of... You see this again and again with Sri Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharshi, Swami Vivekananda. They would go into these little samadhis. They would sort of lose track of time, of people, of what's going on in the world. And they would have to make you can see a clear effort being made to concentrate on... It's like Nisargadatta was once asked, are you constantly aware of Brahman? What is it like? Is it like some idea or an abstraction or some kind of, like practice? Nisargadatta said, no. At that time in Mumbai, It was daytime, and you could see the sun and the moon on one horizon. And sometimes you can see the moon faintly on one horizon and the sun in the sky. He said, it's exactly like this. Brahman, for me, the reality is like that sun. Indubitably blazing forth, effortlessly, always available. And what you call the world, body, mind, world, is that like that faint outline, the moon. Okay. Vishwanathan says, Richard Feynman talks about the difference between knowing something versus knowing the name of something. And that's true. In Chandogya Upanishad, Narada speaks about Mantravidaham natu tattvavid. I am the knower of words, but I don't know the reality. He goes to the teacher and he says, I am full of sorrow. Teach me about Brahman. Why about Brahman? Because I hear that Brahmavid, the knower of Brahman goes beyond sorrow. And this is, what do you know now? What's the state? Like, what degrees have you gotten? So Narada gives a whole list. He's mastered just about every branch of knowledge. But he says, look, I know words, but I don't know the ultimate reality. I also remember this, Schopenhauer once says very beautifully, he says, do your words come from more words, or do they come from silence? Charles Chow says, is Shraddha, faith, a result of his own resolution, a gift from the grace of God? Even if the former own resolution without grace, insights may not be possible. Who or what is this God from which grace comes? So the question of grace is, yes, Kripa, Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. Vedanta has no problem with that. And from Advaita Vedanta perspective, it doesn't even have to be a particular, Vaishnava kind of religion or Shaiva or Shakta kind of religion. You could be a Christian or a Muslim and praying to God. And what is the conception of God in Vedanta? Vedanta Sara class. Definition. Samashtya Ajnana Upahita Chaitanyam. Consciousness limited by Maya is Ishvara or God. Madhusudan Saraswati, yes, we're talking about Madhusudan Saraswati, who gave the general interpretation. Girish, the brains of long-time meditators differ from those of non-meditators, measurable by ephemera, etc. Can a state of enlightenment be so detected? I think yes. Why? It might sound strange. Because Brahmakara vritti is also a vritti. The final enlightenment, which destroys ignorance, is also a movement in the mind. And if every movement in the mind, especially such a powerful movement in the mind, is associated with some kind of neuronal activity, there might be some counterpart to it. Brahman itself cannot be detected because there is nothing in the movie which will reveal the screen, or unless you know what a screen is, then everything in the movie reveals the screen. But no amount of investigations by a scientist in the movie will reveal the screen on which the movie is playing. Yeah. Bill says he must have been experiencing great joy, Turiyananda. Yes, he was very joyful. He was never unhappy. He seemed to be very strict. He would scold, but he was also joyful all the time. Swamiji, Turiyananda cannot depend on Brahman, which would be technically wrong. It would be Saguna Brahman. See, it's another thing. If you read the letters of Swami Turiyananda, it's talking about Brahman in one moment and talking about the mother the next moment. Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman are not two different things. This is one thing that has to be realized. It might sound, after all this Advaita Vedanta, it might sound contradictory. We have dispensed with world and body and mind and Maya. It's time to get rid of poor God also. But remember, it's a conceptual distinction. They explain it this way. Shikhi. Now, this is a monastic explanation. So, the brahmacharis, they have the sacred tuft of hair, like the ponytail, the sacred tuft of hair, shikha. When you become a monk, so two things are given up, the shikha and the sacred thread which you wear. So they are taken off and it's cut off and it's put into the viraja home of the fire. So there are particular mantras for that. It's an elaborate ritual. Many things are done. Part of that is taking of the sacred tuft of hair. And it's your guru, the one who gives you the final vows of monasticism, of becoming a monk. He will cut off that hair. What it signifies is that you're not a part of the ritualistic part of Vedas anymore. You are not entitled to do karma kanda anymore. You are elevated into the knowledge part of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the jnana kanda. That's it. You are no longer part of the householder religion, the Vedic ritualistic householder's life. You cannot do that anymore. But anyway, my point here is different. When the novice has that sacred tuft of hair, he is called Shikhi. Shikha means sacred tuft of hair. So Shikhi means the one who has the sacred tuft of hair. The moment you cut off that, there is no more Shikhi. The Shikha is gone, the sacred tuft of hair is gone, and the one with the sacred tuft of hair is gone. But not really. Now it's no longer a brahmachari, it's Swami so-and-so. It's just because the sacred tuft of hair is not there anymore, you cannot use the name Shikhi to that, the one who has the sacred tuft of hair. But has the person gone just because you cut off a little bit of hair? Of course not. The person is still there. Okay. So exactly like that, Nirguna Brahman with Maya is called Saguna Brahman, God. It's like the sacred tuft of hair. If you let go of Maya, what remains? Nirguna Brahman alone remains. Saguna Brahman is not there anymore. But it's not that there are two different things. It's the same Saguna Brahman who remains as the ultimate reality, Nirguna Brahman. Now, what does this mean practically? Practically, it means the Jivan Mukta, the enlightened being, can happily shift back and forth between Nirguna and Saguna, between Jnana and Bhakti, with no problem at all. Look at the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads. That's why Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, they talk about Brahman with attributes and Brahman without attributes very smoothly. They go back and forth. Brahman without attributes, from a strictly Advaitic perspective, is the only reality. Because those attributes are attributes of Maya. Therefore, Brahman with attributes is nothing but Brahman without attributes with Maya. But it's the same thing. It's the same reality. Why is it not? Why only God? Even you are that Brahman. If you are Brahman, what harm has God done? Why can't God also be Brahman? Saguna Brahman is also actually Nirguna Brahman. Jiva, the Jiva, you are actually Nirguna Brahman. So, Turiyanandaji, you will see, often in a devotional mode, often in a jnana mode, and smoothly switching back and forth with no problem at all. There's a nice discussion between Turiyanandaji and one sadhu Shantinath, who was a very strict non-dualist, very austere monk. So he came and he talked with Swami Turiyananda. He was not a member of our order. He's a Nath Sampradaya. The chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath. So that same order. So this sadhu Shantinath was a very strict non-dualist and a yogi also. So he's talking, he would come and debate sometimes with Turiyanandaji. Turiyanandaji was very old at that time in Kashi. So here's one sample. Turiyanandaji said, Swami Turiyananda said, look, you know what our attitude is. Hanuman said to Ramachandra, when I see as a body, I am thy servant. As a jiva, I am a part of thee. And as the Atman, I am you. This is my final conviction. So as body, I am thy servant. Dasoham, deha buddhya dasoham. And I'm identified with the body. I am your servant. This is dualistic Vedanta, Dvaita. Jiva buddhya twadangshaka. As a sentient being, I am a part of you. Part and whole relationship means Vishishtadvaita. Atma buddhya tu tvamevaham. But from a perspective of Atman as pure consciousness, you and I are one reality. Who is saying? Hanuman is saying to Ramachandra, you and I are one reality. Then what is your conviction? This is my conviction. All of it. But many people do not know Shantinath's reply to it. Shantinath said, that is a wrong interpretation, Swami. Identification with the body and identification with the mind, these are wrong identifications. Therefore, identified with the body, and he says that Atma buddhya tu tvamevaham, as the Atman, with knowing myself as the Atman, That word tu means but. And Shantinath said that but shows that the other two, the first two options are rejected. You are not the body. You are not the mind. You are the Atman. And unless you reject those two, you cannot come to the Atma Buddhi. Therefore, you are not the servant of God. You are not even a part of God. You are one with God, and this is the only correct interpretation. What was Suryanji's response? Suryanji burst out laughing and he stroked his head and he said, well, 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 have it your way. So that's a very strict non-dualistic interpretation, which I like, but you have to see that it's a very non-compromising, uncompromising non-dualism. But it's correct. Technically, it's correct, what he said. All right, we'll stop. We have really gone overboard. It's, as you can see, it's one of my favorite verses, so I tend to hold forth. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.